Hello everybody, welcome. Today it is time that I reveal just how trash I am for Genshin Impact. With the exception of my Cooking with Jungling series, I haven't really showed my love for Genshin Impact much on this channel. But as someone who's a cosplayer, something that I absolutely love in media is character design. Costuming makes such a huge difference in media, particularly in film and games. In my mind, costuming can be used in three different key ways. The first being aesthetically, making something look cool or look beautiful, in a world building technique by showing a character's social class or maybe the climate of the environment through the clothes that they are wearing, and also as a narrative device. The look and appearance of a character should tell you what that character is like. For example, we can look at something famous but simple like Lord of the Rings. From your first look at an elven character, you would think of them as wise, ethereal, all-knowing, and that represents them as a race. A character like Aragon you would look at and think that he's mysterious, brave, and hardened. Characters who are blonde with pigtails you would usually think as cute and innocent, but then put them in a circus-like bikini top and a hammer in their hands and suddenly they don't quite seem that way. That's what we're going to be focusing on today and how well this is done in Genshin. In this video, I want to talk about characters who I think represent peak character design from this game. This isn't based on aesthetics or highlighting my personal favorite designs or characters, but rather pointing out the symbolic aspects of certain characters' designs. If people want a more extensive video on this topic, maybe going through every Genshin Impact character or more of a ranking video, then let me know by giving the video a like, and then I will know that this is something people are interested in and I can consider making this more of a series type of thing. But to keep things somewhat concise today, I'm going to be focusing on just 4 characters. Without further ado, and without me having to use the word character design again, let's get into it. We're going to start off strong with someone who I think is one of the best written characters in Genshin Impact, a new favorite of mine, someone who's a very complex character with a complex design to represent that. Furina. Now, to discuss all the symbolism surrounding Furina's design, I am going to have to go into spoilers for the Fontaine Archon quest and her story quest. Since these parts of the game are very new, I will be putting up a little symbol in the corner for when I'm going to be talking about major spoilers, so that you can either skip or mute. But if you don't want to risk any spoilers at all, just skip to the next character. As stated, Furina is one of the most complex characters to come out of Genshin. Introduced as the Hydra Archon of Justice, she appears more as an entitled celebrity with dramatic flair than she does as a darkened immortal, such as what we see from previous Archons. First, let's look at the elements of her costume that represent her role as the Hydra Archon. From the back view of Furina, we have these glowing skirt pieces that appear in the shape of a fish. The glow of them is also reminiscent of the design we see on other Archons, such as the Raiden Shogun's braid glowing as she uses her power. Notice though how Furina's is a part of her costume while the Raiden Shogun's is a physical part of her. Other parts of this back wave skirt piece have a wave pattern on them and fall down and cascade like water. Also in her eyes are teardrops not dissimilar to the Oratrice Mécanique d'Annelise Cardinal. I would not know how to say that if not for TikTok. Like all Archons, Furina's colour scheme also represents her element. When looking at the designs of Genshin characters as a whole, it is notable when characters are designed in a more symmetrical way to an asymmetrical way. Typically, the characters who have a more symmetrical design are the more serious characters or the more powerful characters, with characters who have more asymmetry usually being more fun side characters. Whether characters are symmetrical or asymmetrical is also dependent on the fashion from the region. We see a lot of symmetrical characters from Fontaine, such as Linny and Lynette and Neuvillette. Furina appears to have such a design, but only on the surface. Looking closely, Furina appears to have 2 sides. Her eyes are 2 different mixed-matched colours. The gloves on either of her hands are 2 different colours, representing that there are 2 different sides to Furina. It's also notable that characters who often wear gloves are usually seen to be hiding something. These 2 sides represented in her costume represent the 2 sides to Furina. Furina, who appears as the Hydra Archon, and the scared human trapped within. Furina's human side, which we get to see more of in her story quests following the Archon quest, is one who is a performer with the love for the arts. While many aspects of her costume represent the Hydra Archon, it also doubles up to represent how she is as a human. There's a lot of aspects of the costume that represent her as a performer. On the tops of her shoes are these frills, which you often see used on clown collars, giving a circus-like appearance. Her hat also has an aspect of performance, similar to what we see Linny use as a magician's hat. However, the detailing on the hat almost gives a more royal feel. Also on Furina's costume, there are several spots that you would look at and expect to find a vision. Looking at her bow, at her neck, on the garters, on her back, it would be very easy to perceive these spots as places where a vision would be. Furina's overall costume is also very tailored. The blazer gives an almost uniform look, as if this is a uniform she puts on to perform her fake role. The rigid look of this design also directly contrasts the appearance of the true Hydra Archon Focalors, who wears a very light, flowy dress. All of these little details on Furina's very intricate design sum up all components of her character. It shows Furina as the Hydra Archon, Furina as having something more than what we can see on the surface, and Furina as a performer. Now that we've truly dissected Furina, let's jump on over to Sumeru. It's time to talk about a particular fan favorite, Kaveh. Not only is Kaveh's attire rich with color and textures aesthetically, but symbolically, it truly sums up his work as an architect. In particular, the cape that hangs along his back. All the layers of his cape cascade in tiers, in a similar shape to what we see throughout Sumeru architecture, particularly in larger structures such as the Palace of Alcazar, which I didn't learn to pronounce before I filmed this video, I'm sorry. But that particular palace is the one that Kaveh himself designed. The little side cape of fabric along the front also follows this tiered design. One of my favorite details of Kaveh is this design along the side of the pants. Design on them looks like the windows that we typically see in Sumeru. If you want to get real particular, you could almost say that they're similar to the smaller windows that we see in Alhaitham's house. I might be reaching with that one. While I said previously that the more symmetrical character designs were reserved for more serious and powerful characters, with Kaveh, this symmetry comes from a calculated place of intricate design from an architect. The whole costume hangs in perfect balance and order. While the cape and accessories might indicate a type of opulence, his undershirt is a very plain white, just with some pleats along the edge. His hair accessories are also very simple. A feather, which he could have sourced for free, and some hair clips to keep his hair in place. I feel like the contrast in the plain and the fanciful in his costume represent his financial position. People assume that he is of money due to his designs as an architect. However, he isn't in the financial position to afford anything luxurious. Kaveh's design overall is just an absolute work of art. Moving on from one fan favorite to another, we're going to talk about Wanderer. Like Furina, Wanderer is a character with a lot of depth, maybe even more so. Once again, there is going to be a lot of spoilers in discussing this character. Wanderer is a character who has been through many changes, has carried many names and identities. He in fact has two designs, his design as Scaramouche or the Balladeer, and his reborn self as the Wanderer. We're going to be focusing on Wanderer's character design, but also contrasting it against his previous one. This whole design is a combination of Inazuman and Sumeru fashions. From the back, we have these intricately patterned sashes, which we see reflected in multiple characters from Inazuma, such as Kazuha, and more importantly, the Raiden Shogun. There's also a tie around the waist, which is used to tie kimonos and is illustrated in Inazuman characters. However, smaller details are more reminiscent of Sumeru. The strap that hangs off the shoulder with the medallion on the back is similar to what we see Tainari wear on his costume. His undershirt is done in a more see-through style, similar to what we see on Alhaitham. Also, if it wasn't for cosplayers, I still wouldn't know that Alhaitham's shirt is supposed to be like a sheer material. On first glance, I just assumed that this man just had such rippling abs that they shone through his shirt. The most obvious symbolic detail on Wanderer is his vision placement. Vision placement on characters is often very symbolic. and Wanderer's vision is placed right over his heart, which is something that he always wanted. Wanderer's appearance also directly contrasts his appearance as the balladeer. One represents the harshness and darkness of Electro, and represents the weight of his ties to the Raiden Shogun and his past life, and the other represents the lightness and freeness of Animo. The design of Wanderer is also a lot less cluttered. As a Harbinger, he wears this heavy, giant symbol of Electro that hangs heavy from his neck, while the Animo design has a light pendant in that place. His hat on the Harbinger design also has this sheer material from the back that is almost like a curtain, like he is closed to everything around him, which the sheer material on the back did look really cool. I kind of miss it. His previous design represents the heavy burden of his memories that he couldn't let go of, that turned him into this angered, sad being. While his design as Wanderer represents someone who has gone through a change and has moved on from their past. Lastly, let's talk about someone close to Wanderer, Nahida. While seemingly simplistic, there's a key choice in Nahida's design that sums up so much of her character, and that is the choice to make her appear as a child. With some characters, making them a child, no, not that child, a child, doesn't have too much point to the plot, namely Diona. But with Nahida, I think it's a very deliberate choice. Nahida is the underrated, underappreciated goddess of wisdom, imprisoned by the academia as they believe their idea of wisdom is superior. The academia believes that wisdom is achieved through understanding science, facts, and the laws of the universe. To the extent in which they suppress art and creativity, control people's dreams, and want to replace Nahida with their own man-made god. Nahida represents true wisdom, which comes from learning and evolution. She takes the form of a child to represent that she is always learning and always growing. Nahida also needs to learn how to be an Archon herself, as she's been shut away for so long. It also ties to the idea that she is Lesser Lord Kusanali as opposed to Greater Lord Rusanali. The colour scheme is based in green, following the pattern with all the Archons, that the colour scheme represents their element, and she also has these little intricate leaf designs along the bottom of her dress to represent Dendro. The almost electrical looking parts at the top of her costume represent her ties to the people of Sumeru through control of the Akasha terminals and the technology used in Sumeru. Fun fact, I could not remember what Akasha terminals were called, and I had no idea how to Google it to find out because I didn't know how to describe what it was, and I swear to God, the sheer relief when I finally remembered that it was called an Akasha terminal. And that, friends, brings us to an end of discussing the best of Genshin Impact character designs. Or at least what I'm going to talk about today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope that you could enjoy this video. If you did enjoy, once again, remember to like the video, as that will encourage me to make more videos like this. I do kind of want to make this a series and go through region by region and rank each character. And if you want to see more content from me, please subscribe to the channel, or you can check out some older videos as well. I'll recommend you some in the end screen. And please leave in the comments any other aspects of these characters I discussed that I missed, some of your favorite details on Genshin characters, or just anything Genshin related, honestly. Thank you very much for your time, your attention, and your support. I'll see you later. Bye!